Hi, I'm Mr. C, the teacher, and this is my classroom. So grab your tools for school and join in with us. Or sit back and just watch. And let's go on a learning journey together. Because you're watching Lessons from the Classroom. Well, let's take a look at what the topic for today's episode is going to be about.
Oh, Mr. C, we need you on the set to open the show.
Yeah, I don't want it, guys. Not dressed like this.
What's wrong with the costume we got you? Just come on out and open up the show.
I mean, really? A hot dog? You know I'm a vegan, right? I don't eat meat. You know there's a reason why they call hot dogs mystery meat too, right? I mean, we don't know what part of the animal these things come from. I thought this show was supposed to be about food and nutrition. You couldn't have found me a costume, something like an apple or, maybe a banana. I'd even dress up like a piece of lettuce. A hot dog?
Well, you look fine. Just do the opening.
Okay. This week's episode is going to be about food and nutrition. We'll learn lots. I'm going to call my agent about it. I feel like such a big wiener. I love being surrounded by great books, because one of my favorite things to do is to read stories. So let's make some time right now and read a storybook. This is story time. A Tale of Bread and Thread. A story by Maxine Rose Schur and illustrations by Christina Deliso. And read by Mr. C, the teacher. This is a tale of bread and thread, made up from crumbs and stitches. How a penniless baker, along with his wife, go from rags to riches. When the world was full of wonders, there lived a poor baker named Mr. Bumble Crumb. He was poor because he was the very worst baker in the world. His cupcakes were heavy as doorknobs, and his cookies brittle and broken as beach shells. Mr. Bumblecrumb daydreamed so much he could not pay attention to his baking. Once, while daydreaming, he hadn't noticed an alarm clock had fallen into the dough, and the next morning was awakened by a loaf of rye bread. And what about his wife? Mrs. Bumblecrumb was a sensible woman. Could she not have made a little money sewing for the villagers? No. The baker's wife was the very worst seamstress in the world. Once the poor woman sewed Mr. Grump's coat to Widow Crank's shawl, and since neither customer could agree where to separate the garment, they decided to marry and share the darn thing. Now, one late afternoon, just a day before the midsummer festival, the baker and his wife were sitting inside their tiny cottage. The cottage was hot from the ancient oven. As Mrs. Bumblecrumb was fanning herself with a slice of stale poppy seed bread, she remarked, "If only we had a nicer home, with a white painted porch where we might sit out in the cool breath of a summer's eve." "Aye," replied the baker, "it would be a lovely thing indeed, for it is a trial, living as close as moles, yet it is not for us to want what we cannot have." His wife sighed. "You're right, my dear." Suddenly, there came a loud knocking at the door. When the baker opened it, they saw a richly dressed man reading from an important-looking scroll. Hear ye, be it known that His Royal Majesty King Sniffins will visit the village tomorrow for the midsummer festival. He hereby orders the baker of the village, Mr. Bumblecrum, to bake up bread for His Majesty's banquet table. It must be a most special bread, fit for a king. Crumbly crust, the baker gasped. Silence, I haven't finished, the messenger snapped. Be it known that the seamstress of this village, Mrs. Bumblecrum, is ordered by King Sniffins to sew a handkerchief as exceptionally beautiful by which the king will remember the midsummer festival. Sizzling scissors, Mrs. Bumblecrum exclaimed. After the messenger rode away, the baker vowed he would make the best bread in the whole world, a bread fit for a king. The baker's wife vowed she would sew the most beautiful handkerchief the world has ever seen, fit for a king. They went right to work. The baker measured the flour and sugar many times to make sure he was measuring right. But after a while, he began to daydream. When he glanced out the window and saw summer dressed in all its finery, he exclaimed, "Right here on earth, red roses, bluebells, and lavender make a rainbow." The baker looked longingly at the beauty of the world. He watched the fuzzy bumblebees probing the primroses, then spied a yellow butterfly playing peekaboo among the pansies. Mr. Bumblecrum was so enchanted by the pretty scene, he lost track of time and forgot his measuring. He forgot how much yeast he had already added to the dough, so he added more. And then, just to make sure, he added more. And then more. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bumblecrum was busy sewing the king's handkerchief. She was careful with her stitches, counting each one as she worked. But after a while she began to think about the bread her husband was baking. "I hope he adds a wee bit of clover honey," she thought. "Nothing beats clover honey to give a pleasing taste." And then she wondered if perhaps he should add a smidgen of ginger, or a pinch of pepper, and perhaps crunchy walnuts or plump raisins. The more Mrs. Bumblecrum thought about her husband's bread, the more she thought how he could make it even tastier. The more she thought, the more she sewed, and sewed, and sewed. Late that night they went to bed, happy that their work was done. The next morning the baker popped the bread of dough into the oven, and not long after he heard a loud knocking. Again it was the king's herald. Hear ye, he shouted. "King Sniffins is arriving at the village square in 1 hour. Prepare to present your gifts to His Majesty." While Mrs. Bumblecrum went to wrap the handkerchief, Mr. Bumblecrum went to check on his bread. But when he opened the oven, a huge yellow blob burst toward him. Terrified, the baker tried to push it back, but the blob swelled larger and surged forward with a terrible roar. "Help me!" he shouted to his wife. She ran to his aid, but even pushing together, they were still not strong enough to shove the thing back. They ran from the house with the giant blob following behind. The blob wobbled through the summer streets, lurching toward the village square, sticking and smacking and stretching bigger and bigger and bigger as it went. When it grew to the size of a small house, it began to torment the villagers. "Burple, hubble, bloop," it burped in Lady Snocket's face. "Huzzle, fazzle, sniss," it hissed at Farmer Fife. "Glipple, popple, slurp," it spat at Butcher Good. As it slobbered over gardens and hedges, the terrified villagers ran in all directions. scattering like chickens before the hideous thing. The baker stood horrified as he realized that too much yeast had turned the king's bread into a monster. Then a wonderful thing happened. The blob moved slower and took on the rich color of a copper penny, then finally stood still. The hot midsummer sun had thoroughly baked the dough. Now a delicious smell of fresh baked bread floated over the village. The royal trumpets were blown, and brave King Sniffins rode right up to the tame, sweet-scented bread. "Thunderous thrones!" the king roared. "A bread as big as a house! Wonderful surprise!" King Sniffins began to laugh, and soon everyone was laughing. The villagers laughed so hard that soon they all had to blow their noses, and this reminded the king of something important. "Where's my royal handkerchief?" King Sniffins demanded. Mrs. Bumblecrumb stepped forward. "I have it here, your royal person." She curtsied low as she handed the handkerchief to the king. But the king and the villagers began laughing all over again, for when the king unfolded it, they saw the handkerchief was as big as a blanket. "Thumbs and thimbles!" the baker's wife cried. "I must have counted wrongly." "Never mind," the king chuckled. "It will make a perfect horse blanket. Merry midsummer!" At the festival, the king bade everyone to enjoy a good slab of Mr. Bumblecrumb's bread. Yes, at the midsummer festival, everyone, whether rough or royal, had a grand time. Now you might suppose that Mr. and Mrs. Bumblecrumb went to bed happy. But they did not. That evening they heard a commotion outside their home. Stepping outside, the couple saw a crowd of villagers holding signs and chanting. "For our sake, do not bake. We may ache with your cake, but we'll be dead with your bread. With too much yeast, you have made a beast." The message was clear. The villagers had been so frightened by the enormous runaway bread, they were now demanding that the baker stop baking. Forever. That night, Mr. Bumblecrumb tossed unhappily in his sleep. What would he do without his bakery? How would he make a living? How would they live now? The next morning, he awoke to a marvelous smell. He followed the smell to the kitchen to find his wife standing proudly in front of little bread loaves nestled in a basket, warm and brown as puppies. The counter was lined with pies still steaming from the oven. They scented the air with the fragrance of a summer orchard. The baker knew that from that day on, his wife would do the baking, and he figured there was nothing for him but to take up sewing. He soon learned to love the firm push and pull of a needle and became the best tailor in the kingdom. In time, Mr. and Mrs. Bumblecrumb bought a new home with a white painted porch. Someone once told me that when King Sniffins married, it was Mr. Bumblecrumb who sewed the royal wedding clothes, and it was Mrs. Bumblecrumb who baked the wedding cake. Yes, the world was full of wonders, and perhaps it still is. This story wasn't meant to teach, to give a moral, or to preach, but there's a secret, and it's true. It's one I want to tell, just you. Beneath your thoughts and in your heart lie secret talents and hidden art. Try your hand at something new. Discover things that you can do. They're hiding right inside of you, things you never knew you knew. You know, eating healthy, of course, is always important, and you should always try to eat from the 4 basic food groups: Although there's a bit of argument back and forth about which groups maybe we should eat less of and which we should eat more of. Let's take a look at the four basic groups. There's dairy products that include things like butter and cheese and milk, ice cream and yogurt. There's meat that cover things like fish, beef, chicken, turkey, and some of the alternatives like beans and eggs, which aren't meats but still fit into that high protein group. There's of course fruits and vegetables, yum. And there's the grains group. Grains consist of things like corn, which I know you'd think is a vegetable, but it's a grain, cereal, bread, rice, an important grain and one that's eaten all over the world by more people than any other kind of grain. Now, there is a little bit of an argument saying maybe dairy products which contain a lot of fat and in which there's some links to cancer and health problems should be a food that we should either eat very little of or maybe avoid altogether. Meat is another category that some people have gone back and forth on. Some of the arguments for that with meat is that meat has been linked to a number of diseases, causing heart disease, causing some cancers. So I decided to go into the World Health Organization website and find out exactly what they meant by the fact that meat could cause some cancers, especially processed meats. So, and looking at the question, it says, what do you consider as processed meat? And the WHO says, processed meat refers to meat that has been transformed through salting or curing or fermentation, smoking, or other processes to enhance flavor or improve preservation, some barbecues, for example. Most processed meats contain pork or beef, but processed meats may also contain other red meats and poultry and offal or meat byproducts such as blood. Examples of processed meat include hot dogs and frankfurters, ham that you might put in your sandwiches, sausages, corned beef, and biltong or beef jerky, as well as canned meat and meat-based preparations and sauces. And further down it says processed meat was classified as carcinogenic to humans. Tobacco smoking and asbestos are also classified as carcinogenic to humans and are in that same group 1. Does it mean that the consumption of processed meats is as carcinogenic as smoking tobacco and being around asbestos? They say no. Processed meat has been classified in the same category as causes of cancer, such as tobacco smoking and asbestos, but this does not mean that they're equally dangerous. The IARC classification describes the strength of the scientific evidence about an agent being a cause of cancer, rather than assessing the risk level. So stick to maybe vegetables and grains, and well, it's up to each individual to decide whether they want to eat dairy or meat. That's up to you guys. Eat healthy. Worksheet lessons. And here we have a worksheet for our theme unit on food and nutrition. The instructions say, cut and paste or draw foods in the correct food groups. Well, we have some foods down here at the bottom that we'll be able to cut out and glue in to the correct food groups. There's 4 food groups: milk products, bread and cereals, fruit and vegetables, and meat. Let's start off with coloring the pictures first. Okay, let's use our scissors and cut these pictures out. Notice there's a dotted line right across, so I'll cut straight through that. That'll make the bottom of our page here nice and neat and tidy. Okay, we've got all our pictures cut out. Now let's use our glue and put them in the right spot. First one says milk products. Well, milk products consist of milk. I'll put our picture of milk right in there. And also other dairy products like cheese. Cheese, yogurt, ice cream. Those are all milk products or dairy products. So we've got our milk and our cheese in there. Next one says bread and cereals. Now we've got a picture of muffins. That's a bread. And we've got a picture of buns, hot dog buns, hamburger buns, toast, cereal. Sometimes we call those grains, and that can also include things like rice and even pasta. Macaroni and cheese and spaghetti could even fit in this category. Next group we've got down here says fruit and vegetables. Well, an apple, of course, is fruit. And a carrot, of course, is a vegetable. And the last group we have says meat. We've got a picture of a chicken leg here. And we've got a picture of fish. Both chicken and fish are meat. Of course, so is beef, pork, hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, bacon. All of that would be in the meat category. Well, there's our completed worksheet of 4 food groups: milk products, bread and cereal, fruit and vegetables, and meat. All right, it's time in our episode for this segment that I like to call the Did You Know Fun Facts.
Did you know?
Let's talk bread.
Bread.
Bread is one of the most common staples or foods for all people around the world, and it's been a part of the human diet for thousands of years. Did you know that French toast wasn't invented in France by the French?
Oh, say what?
There are a few rumors, one of them being that the French toast was invented by a guy called Joseph French, who then named it after himself. Did you know the sandwich is named after John Montagu, who was the 4th Earl of the area known as Sandwich?
Oh, that's me.
He simply asked his cook to put some meat between 2 slices of bread so it would be easier for him to eat while he was doing things like playing cards or hunting or whatever other thing he was doing in his fancy lifestyle.
Oh yeah, just slap it between some bread.
Did you know that in ancient Egypt they would use moldy bread to help treat wounds and injuries and cuts? The mold in the bread would help produce chemicals that would help stop the growth of bacteria that could cause infections. Very clever. And did you know that before the invention of the eraser,
The eraser.
writers would sometimes use crumbs of bread as an eraser?
I love to eat bread. Oops, I made a spelling mistake. It's a good thing I got my handy piece of bread here. Bread? Cool. Who knew it was for more than just eating?
Now you know. More worksheet lessons.
So here we have a worksheet from our food theme unit. This one's on vegetables. Let's see what it says. There are so many kinds of vegetables. Draw a line under the ones that you've tried and circle the ones that you like. Okay, everybody's answers are going to be different because this is asking you personally what you like and which ones you have tried. So people are going to have different answers. These are going to be my answers. Let's see. Have I tried corn? Yes, I've tried corn. Have I tried carrots? Yes, I've tried carrots, and I like carrots. I'm going to circle that one. Have I tried zucchini? Yeah. Have I tried cucumbers? Yes. Have I tried celery? Yes. Have I tried broccoli? Yes, and I like broccoli. Have I tried asparagus? Yes, I like asparagus. Have I tried cauliflower? No, I haven't tried cauliflower, so I'm going to leave that one blank. Have I tried peas? Yes, and I like peas. Have I tried lettuce? Yeah. Have I tried potatoes? I love potatoes. And have I tried green beans? Yes, I have. So for me, personally, I put lines under ones that I tried and circled ones that I liked. Here's one that I didn't do anything with because I haven't tried it. Let's look at the next part. It says, which one does not belong? One of these does not belong. We have green beans and broccoli and celery and carrots. Which one does not belong? There could be different answers. Here's one that I'm thinking of. Think of the color. What color are beans? They're green. What color is broccoli? It's green. What color is celery? It's green. What color are carrots? They're orange, although you can get purple carrots as well. And yes, the leaves are green. So when I look at these, which one does not belong? I'm going to circle carrots just because of its color. This one says, draw your favorite vegetable. Everyone's going to have a different answer. Is your favorite vegetable corn on the cob? Is it carrots or broccoli? Do you like celery or zucchinis? Do you like peas or green beans? Lettuce or potatoes? What is your favorite vegetable? Remember, not a fruit, but a vegetable. For me, I think I'm going to draw potato. Here's my potato. It's got a few little round bumps. Potatoes are often brown. Vegetables. What are your answers?
Oh, you need to come and do the show's closing now.
Really? This is the only other costume you could find?
What's wrong with it?
And we just did a show about food and nutrition. You had me as a hot dog to open the show and now a hamburger?
Well, I don't know what the problem is. You've got all 5 food groups there. I mean, you've got your grains and the bread. You got lettuce,
suppose.
onion, that's the vegetables. You got tomatoes, that's fruit.
Yeah.
You got cheese for dairy.
Yeah,
You've
fine.
got meat there. It's good.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Hope you learn lots about food and nutrition and you eat healthy. All right, we'll see you next time.
Well, let's dress this guy up as a nut next time.
Well, thanks for joining me, and I hope you learned something new and had fun doing the lessons. Join me next time on another episode of Lessons from the Classroom.